Thanks guys for being here. This is an extremely exciting day for Emma, and it's a very exciting day for Fraser Coast Regional Council to be able to support this exhibition in a webinar form. It's something that we haven't done before, and I think that it will allow increasing exposure in our community, because there are a lot of members in our community who are just feeling isolated and don't feel that they're able to come out and be here today. And so I thank Emma and our staff for being able to put this together for them. Well done. I was thinking on the drive over here this morning that we're increasingly living in a digital world where the things that we like or exposed to are determined by algorithms that are out of our control. The thing I love about this exhibition is that it gives a glimpse to a different world that many of us may never have been exposed to before. And I'd like to welcome Emma to talk further.
Hello, thank you all for attending today, and thank you to the people online who are also with me today. I've got some notes, just a few thank yous, and then we'll go on to explaining a bit more about the artworks. So I'd like to thank Zane O'Keefe, Councillor, for coming and opening the exhibition for me. Everyone at the Regional Council who've supported the filming of this artist talk, and also the production of my catalogue, which gives a greater insight into the story. All of the support groups who've helped me on my journey, so Carers Queensland, Autism Queensland, Pippa and Nice Little Treasures, who were there offering advice for me along the way, and the incredible artist community that I'm part of here, who've supported me through my journey as well. Very importantly, I'd like to thank any parents and carers who are able to be with us today, because I know how difficult it is to have time for these sort of things for yourself. So my exhibition today, this has been about 4 years in the making. I started drawing these images when my son got to school, when I had some time for myself. So I'm just going to take you through the exhibition. If you want more detail and you're online, please follow the link to the digital catalogue, and you can follow along and zoom into the images. First one we've got here is called Swimming in Doubt. This is the morning that I went into labour, and I didn't realise I was in labour yet. I felt pretty uncomfortable, I felt heavy, and I assumed that it was because my babies were so close together and my body just wasn't coping with the second pregnancy. So I went about my day doing my normal routine, and my daughter had a swimming lesson that morning. So this image called Swimming in Doubt, because when I reflected back on my time, I realised that I doubted myself as a mother. What things could I have changed that I was doing that would have changed the outcome for my son? If I had have been a little bit more aware of my body, would we have been able to stop this journey and have him have less traumatic birth? So there's little details in this that are kind of hard to see on the screen, but I'll just take you through them. The first thing I wanted to represent was that I was sort of in an abyss. You can't tell I'm in a pool. I could be in the ocean. I'm sort of floating in the middle of this space. My daughter is unaware that there's anything wrong. She's happily in my arms waving at all the people, and I'm holding her securely. Surrounding me are all these little seeds, and I'm calling them seeds of doubt. I wanted to sort of research what sort of flowers represented doubt, and I found that geraniums did, so I used their seeds to represent that. Now, I've always hated geraniums, and that hatred has now been validated by this whole experience. So As we move on to just drop me at emergency, this was when I realised it was game on. He was coming today. It wasn't just contractions or a little bit of discomfort. He was coming. This is the point where I tell my husband, just drop me at emergency. When it's not a checkup anymore. And he's sort of, if you have a close look, he's white knuckling the wheel. And there's nothing to say. We're very still and stilted in the car as well. I'm trying to emphasise that we're dropping off into an abyss. It's a road to who knows where. It's all unknown. And it's kind of nightmarish in the background, because when I look back on it, it's the stuff of nightmares for mothers. First portrait of a mother and child is me in the theatre at the hospital. My son was meant to be a caesarean birth, but he decided to come out on his own. So this is me, and this is him being resuscitated in the background. I don't know if you know this, but there's a score called an APGAR score for the health of children when they're born, which is from a 1 to a 10. My first daughter was a 9, and then she was a 10. And because I knew this from my first child, when they said he's 1 out of 10, this is how I looked. I was grey and green and very unsure of what all our future was going to be for him and for my family. Why so sad, doctor, is this is my husband. He's a doctor. At the time, he was an intern in the hospital where I just had my son. And because not all the staff know each other in big hospitals, when he came in and he was crying, the other staff couldn't understand why he was so upset by this particular incident. So this is my take on how he felt through the whole experience, trying to wrestle with being a professional and a father and also as a husband. Surrogate, I don't know, yeah, we're on, yeah. Surrogate one-to-one represents how big my son was when he was born. So this is to scale. I took the measurements from his birth records and created this. He was very red and shiny. It was like a new wound. You know, the skin wasn't ready to be out yet. So I wanted to represent that. So I've used an acrylic enamel to make him really shiny. And I've used the green of surgical greens to represent the hospital and all the tubing. The tubes just everywhere. You could hardly see him in there. And I wanted to represent the womb. That's his new mother. Down here, this is one of the first images I created for this exhibition, and it's called But for the Machines. And there's not really much more to say about that. He was reliant on these machines, and we were reliant on these machines to keep him alive. So we're just going to move on to the next section now. This next one is called Saving a Child. Oh, did I miss these? Sorry. Rachel Goes in a Hamburg House is about my journey at Ronald McDonald's house. It's very literal. It's a hamburger house. But sometimes I like to do that in my work. And I've represented us as ghosts because we were there, but we weren't really there. We were hollow, very appreciative of the service they could provide, but we were so far removed from our normal lives. I think some people forget how this journey financially is a very expensive one. Just because this is going on doesn't mean any of your bills or any of your other responsibilities end. So services like this are essential to families surviving. We're not city people, so all these roads and all this noise and everything just piled on to that overwhelming sense that we were so out of place. This is denial and provision. When we stayed in Ronald McDonald House, you get a bedroom and a little bathroom off the side. And I had to express milk. That was the only thing that I could do for my son, so I was pretty obsessive about it. and you need a lot of machinery to do the pumping initially, especially when your son isn't meant to be here. It takes a while to get your body to kick in. My daughter, up to that point, had 100% access to me all the time. We were co-sleeping, doing everything together all the time. And then when this experience comes along, she's a lot of the time in the pram or behind a gate. This machinery is very expensive and very interesting looking for a nearly 18-monther. So we bought a baby gate. And I just thought it was very symbolic of the separation that we started to have in our relationship that wasn't there before. Yeah. And then we go up to saving a child feels a lot like losing a husband. A lot of relationships of people with special needs children break down. It's over 80%. The pressure that you get to be everywhere and doing everything well is quite overwhelming. So my husband, he had to step into a new role in that he had to look after my daughter all the time. And I was stuck in hospital feeling pretty useless, but I couldn't leave. You feel like you're obligated to be there all the time. So I could feel the tension. He was upset that I was there all the time, but understood I needed to be there all the time. But it just made it really difficult. I've just included little details in this one, like the clock up the top has no hands because it's endless. You're just continually there. I thought one interesting thing about this journey is, and fathers everywhere would know this, I guess, when they put the name on my son, it just says baby of Emma. So he's my baby. He's not the father's baby. So I felt that sort of adds to the separation that dads feel, especially in these circumstances when they feel like they can't contribute anything here. They're not even changing a nappy. They're not doing anything. So that sense of separation for them is really difficult. The awkward sentinel continues on this same journey, and this is me in the hospital just hovering every day, feeling like I'm just in the way. They do get you to do little bits and pieces so that you can establish your relationship with your child, changing nappies and things like that, so you feel that they're not so fragile. But you come in and you change a nappy and then you just stand there. You don't sit down, because when you sit down, you can't see in the humidicrib, so you just hover at the end, knowing that you want to be near your child, but not feeling like you're not contributing anything. If anything, getting in the way for the nursing staff, but you can't stop yourself. I'm going to skip over to this one. This one here is called siblings. The relationship of older children to children with some extra needs is a very different one. My daughter didn't get to touch her brother for 78 days. She watched him through a little window, and all she could really tell was he was taking time. I wanted this to sort of represent her, almost looking into her future, because the question is, what happens when I'm not here? What happens when his dad isn't here anymore? Does all this responsibility fall onto his sibling? And there's nothing you can change about that. As a parent, you feel quite frustrated that your child's future is being shaped by this. Last one down here is called bags. And it's just representative of some of the things that I've gone through. The first one people find very confronting, and I apologise for that. That's my son in the Ziploc bag. His head was out of the bag, but I wanted to make it in real life, but I really wanted to exaggerate that. The bag was to keep his temperature up while I could transfer him to a bigger hospital. He had breathing tubes in, he was fine, but it was a shock. The first time I think I saw him, he was in a little bag and he had wires coming out of his stomach and all these sort of things. The milk bags, if anybody has been through this sort of journey, you're just constantly producing milk because that's what you can do. And you're taking over little eskies full of milk every day, and that's your contribution. I don't know where it goes. Gosh, that freezer must be huge. But you feel like you're doing something. blood transfusions. He only had to have one, but it was a big day for us because he's at such a point that he needs a blood transfusion. Things aren't great. I mean, he picked up after that. So, and the last one is just, it's my eye bags. You age so quickly going through this journey, and I felt like an old paper bag. That's it for those, and we'll just move on to the next grouping. This one here is called It Takes a Village of Medical Professionals. That was my take on It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. We didn't have a family support network. We have family, but they're spread all over the world. So it was just us battling with this. And I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate the medical workforce and the huge job that it is to get these kids up to a point where they're functioning. And it was just a continual journey. So we were just sort of almost like a board game. You're just travelling around in loops, seeing all these different specialists and the incredible work they do. This guy down here is called Getting By, but Barely, and this is me just surviving, doing what I needed to do. It did not help that I had a dog at the time who loved shoes, so she didn't help my cause, but it's just, I was socially isolated. I was not seeing anyone anyway, so it was just whatever I needed to do to get by. The Resigned Baby is the image that I've used for the advertising for this exhibition. My son does not like this image at all. I think he's a bit confronted by it. But for me, it was a moment. He's about 12 months old in this picture, and he went for a checkup, and they put all these leads on him, and the technician walked out of the room, said, "I'll be back in 10 minutes." He just sat there the whole time looking at me. His eyes were very watery, but he did not move, and I just thought, he's supporting me. This is not his role. He's telling me this is all going to be okay, and we'll get through it. So I just thought it was a really poignant moment for me. We have a bit of a leap in time now because what happened between now and 1 and 4 was a lot of the same. There were a lot of therapies and a lot of interventions, but it was very slow progress. This is when we started thinking about how we had to get him ready for school and all of those sort of things. And his behaviours were becoming more challenging. It's a difficult time because you don't know which of his behaviours are because he's premature and which are because he's seeing the world differently than everybody else. So this, at this point when my son did this, he was doing it a lot. He was lining up all his cars. He just started to go to preschool a couple of days a week to childcare, and the recommendation of his paediatrician to try and get him to separate from me a little bit. In the end, he was very manipulative. He would cry every time I would leave, and as he was sobbing, he'd say, "Don't forget, I need my car, and I need it to be a green one." So every day he would request a car. That's how he amassed all these cars. But then he started lining them up. At the time, I was really proud because he was using all his fine motor skills that we had been working so hard on. But looking back after his diagnosis, I'm like, okay, this is one of those moments that I missed at the time, but became an indicator of what our future was going to be. Unfortunate into a play date is one of my very worst memories with my son. This was the point where I realised that we were going to need a lot of help. I'd gone to pick up my daughter from a play date. She'd had a lovely time, and I'd taken my son with me to pick her up. When he got to their house, it was up a long driveway with a lot of stairs. So he was already heightened by this new experience and being in a new place. And we got out to their house, and this lovely dog, a big old red heeler, that was bounding around the yard, and the mum was very clear in saying, don't run near the dog because he will bowl you over. And Albie just raced out there and he got bowled over by this dog, and everybody was silent and pale and like, oh, what is going to happen here? Is he okay? And Albie jumped up and said, let's do it again. And then he ran back up the stairs and into the house, and I was chasing him around. We finally get everybody organised and leave. He runs down the front steps of their house and he climbs up onto their car and he starts jumping up and down. It was an old car and the woman was wonderful about it. We finally got him down and put him in the car, and he's like, that was great, let's do it again. And I'm like, we're never going back. And we've never been back to that house. And also at this time, I started painting him with less detail. This is as he's starting to lose his identity a little bit. He's becoming a medical issue. So what's wrong? I can't get through to him at this point. It's similar in this picture. He's got no features. It's called Non-Judgmental Love, and it's about his relationship with his dog. Unconditional love, and they feed off each other. They do a lot of, they're very active together, but they're also very loving. So it's a wonderful relationship for him to have. Good. Yep. Top one here is tablet, and its partner is, or counterpart is no tablet. This was, once we had the diagnosis for Albie that he had ADHD, we tried medicating him and it was successful for him. It's not successful for every child, but that's what's been working for him. And I just wanted to illustrate his experience of life on his medication, where he can focus and enjoy himself, and off the medication. So these images are mirrors of each other. It's identical situation, identical landscape, but it's very fuzzy. He's got to go through this fog to find and enjoy there. He's upside down all the time because that's what he does. He's very physical. So he's getting in trouble for things that he can't control at this point. So we try to medicate him just during school, but sometimes he needs a little bit more. Intermission for a restless swine is one of my favourite pictures because he's asleep. He's very hard to get to sleep a lot of the time. Can I switch over, David,
Yes,
to this
yes,
side?
of course.
Is that all right? Yeah, it's very difficult to get to sleep. It takes a lot of time for him to wind down of an evening. So he's just so very restless. He's jumping up and down on the bed, he's singing to himself, and we're just waiting him out as he slowly peters down. But it takes about an hour and a half for him to get to sleep. And as frustrated as I get every night when we go through that process, when I go in at night and turn his little light off, you just, as all mums do, you stare at their face and you're just falling up a little bit more. And his for meltdown was when Albie started school, which was a really hard time for us and a really hard time for him. Up until that point, our whole lives had been structured around him being successful. So you get to school and you have to follow all these directions, and you have, it's not very forgiving. They weren't very good at his school, but there are certain things that just have to be done. So by the time he gets home from school, he's totally exhausted, he's shut down, he goes off and unwinds on his own. The glasses, we haven't got glasses now. We're going to wait a little while with glasses, but they were there. They were something safe that were his, that he could vent his frustration on. So I found them like this in a drawer. I was like, oh look, it's a little M, and I'm like, oh, I know when that happened. And I've kept them like that because they've been bent so many times now that they're over. But I kept them like that as a little reminder of where we were at the time. This one here, I love this one too. It's called The Varied Diet of Mainly Crunchy but Always Non-Touching Foods. And it's talking about the food sensitivities that a lot of autistic kids have. Albie is a sensory seeker, so he loves bright lights, loud noises, crunchy foods. He's got some soft ones in there, but quite particular about how they're presented, and they can't be touching. Even down to if he has a brownie and ice cream, 2 bowls, even though he'll take a spoonful of one and a spoonful of the other and put them in his mouth together, they have to be presented in a particular way for him to eat them. Ready for school down here. In Albie, ever since he was old enough to walk, has always carried something in his hands. Doesn't matter what it is. It's usually the very special piece of Lego that you can never find again from a set, from his sister's room or something, something that he's going to lose. But he's always had something. By the time he got to school, this kind of went a bit far, but it was the way to get into school. And all of these things really helped him to connect with the other children at school. Usually they'll say no toys at school, but for Albie they saw that they were his link to other children. So I would get to school in the morning and the kids would run up and say, "What have you got in your pocket today, Albie?" And he'd pull all this stuff out and they'd start interacting and playing and engaging. So it's been huge for him to have that. And he just feels ready when he's got his pockets full. At the time, my mum had to sew the pockets to the bottom of his shorts because they were so full that they'd come out of the bottom of his pants. Now he's moved on, it's just his whole school bag full of stuff. Am I in or do I need to move over?
That's fine.
Okay. So this final set of 6 images really celebrates the success we're getting now with all the interventions and therapies that we've put in place. And I just wanted to highlight to people that this is a very hopeful journey and that the more input and engagement you get with the kids now, it has knock-on effects. This one here is called At the Movies, and here is my son on his iPad in the middle, down the bottom of the movie theatre. He loves the movies, he loves the loud noise, but he gets very uncomfortable with very emotional scenes. So if anybody's particularly embarrassed or there's someone kisses someone, he doesn't want to see it. And he'll, instead of us all leaving the movies like we did in the past when he's had enough, he'll say, "No, we're going." One day I just happened to have his iPad in my bag and his headphones. I'm like, "Well, I really want to watch this movie and I want the rest of our family to be able to experience the movie too." So I said, "Bobby." And so he sat down on the floor and he was very happy down there. And when the embarrassing stuff was over, I tapped him on the shoulder and he got back up and sat down with the family and watched the rest of the movie. And I just wanted to illustrate that just little changes, little adaptations that are very easy to make but individual to each child, unfortunately, just help them to succeed where ordinarily they would fail. If I didn't have this iPad, we would leave the movies and then we would say, "Well, why would we go back?" So that would be one more activity that we'd strike off the list. And there are a lot that are off the list. Down here is connecting through sharing a passion. And this is about embracing the interests of kids with autism. My son loves Nerf guns, obviously, and this is my father. And he's had a tough time establishing a relationship with my son because he's very physical, and my dad's getting older. So there's things that my son likes to do didn't really line up with my dad until Nerf guns came on the scene. And now when my dad, he arrived for the exhibition last week, my son had all these guns ready to shoot him as soon as he got out of the car. So I put a big bag of Nerf guns on the front lawn, all loaded. My dad and my mum and my sister all grabbed these loaded Nerf guns. When they arrived in the in the driveway, they all came out shooting, and he ran in shooting, and they had a massive war, and it sort of broke the tension of the discomfort when people come into your environment, and it was just such a relaxing and fun thing for them to do. So even if it isn't your interest, and you know autistic children, if they share that interest with you, they're trying to build that relationship with you. They want you in their lives. So if you can even acknowledge what they're showing you, and recognise it, then it's a good